I think if any mass circulation newspaper is going to do it, it will be the Herald Sun. The amount of research and thought that went into the creation of their paywall model was enormous. News Limited has embraced the challenge and they're moving very aggressively into that space, so I wish them all the best.
Matt Pinkney should know. As digital editor of Melbourne's Herald Sun, he was one of the architects of its new online paywall. But at the crucial moment, he was poached by a wannabe rival in the online news business, none other than the Australian Football League. Welcome to Media Watch. I'm Jonathan Holmes, and this week, a special programme. Over 2 years ago, Rupert Murdoch made this blunt prediction about his newspapers and everybody else's.
I think we've been asleep, and it costs us a lot of money to put together good newspapers and good content, and they're very happy to pay for it when they buy a newspaper, and I think when they read it elsewhere, they're going to have to pay.
It's taken a while, but 2 months ago, News Limited's national broadsheet, The Australian, started charging for premium content online. And the most widely read daily paper in Australia, the Herald Sun, is about to start doing the same.
See the whole story unfold in a whole lot more ways with your Herald Sun Digital Pass. Unlock a world of news, sport and entertainment. Online, on your phone and on your iPad.
At the moment, the Herald Sun's digital pass is free. In a couple of months, it'll cost just under $3 a week, the first mass-market daily paper in the world that we're aware of to charge its readers for at least some of its online content.
We wouldn't go into this unless we knew we'd be successful.
You know you'll be successful. You mean it's not even a risk?
It's not even an option. If we don't enter this space, then we can't afford great journalism that we produce every day. This is where we're on our multimedia sports desk over here. That's the website, the mobile site, the iPad, print operation.
The Herald Sun's newsroom stretches all the way round one floor of its tower block on Melbourne's South Bank.
They know who their markets are, and they're operating obviously at different times as well. So
there are 3 more floors of editorial, altogether some hundreds of journalists. The paper still makes good money for News Limited, but like almost every other newspaper in the Western world, its print sales are steadily falling, by more than 4% in the year to December.
Over here you've got the news side of the operation with all the reporters up that end.
Herald Sun editor Simon Pristol knows that the future careers of a lot of these people may depend on finding a way to make online news pay.
The issue has never been about the audience. We've gained millions more customers over the last couple of years in reading our content online. The issue is monetising those customers. We think we've got a model that works.
Metcash, the grocery distributor, they've basically called time on milk bars.
At the twice daily news conference, Pristol and his editorial team have always decided which stories will go where in the paper. Now they have to worry about what the tablet and mobile apps will have in the way of video and audio content.
A couple of videos. We're reviewing video review of Grand Designs Australia and also a review of a thing called the Nike Fuel Band.
And above all, what will be available online only to those who've registered for the digital pass. There's no doubt in anyone's mind what kind of stories readers are most likely to be willing to pay for. Stories about crime.
But basically the outline of how they want to combat it is to shut down nightclubs where drug dealing is prevalent.
And stories about football. Australian rules football, of course.
Our main one's going to be on the Demons and the race claims against Mark Neal. There's leaks all over the place with this from inside headquarters, so we just don't really want to go too early on it.
We've done a lot of research in this space, and clearly football, crime and breaking news are the areas that people come to the Herald Sun website for.
Football and crime being the 2 specialties of this city, I guess.
Sadly, sometimes.
It's footy when you want it, the way you want it. Enjoy more footy stories from more footy experts.
But just as the Herald Sun is gearing up to put chunks of its formidable footy coverage behind a paywall, a competitor has appeared from an unexpected source. Not The Age or Fox Footy or any of its traditional media rivals, but the Australian Football League itself.
We will compete with the Herald Sun, definitely, and they're competing very hard and explicitly with us.
The AFL's website is hosted by Telstra's Big Pond. Both are putting up big money. One to develop the website, the other to build a brand new content hub at AFL House in Etihad Stadium. It'll be staffed by a team employed directly by AFL Media.
So these are our video editing suites here.
The team's leader will be the former digital editor of the Herald Sun, Matthew Pinkney.
And all of the subs and reporters will be based here. All the TV screens will be showing live online analytics.
So how big's the team going to be here? It looks huge.
AFL Media is 105 employees and around about 40 journalists.
40 journalists, plus brand new TV studios and many millions of dollars invested. The AFL plans to be reporting on itself in a major way.
So whether it's video, content on various platforms such as tablet and iPhone, and text, that's what the aim is, to create an independent, credible news organisation which reports on AFL football.
Now you said a news organisation that's going to report. That's new, isn't it?
It is, it's very new. The coverage of the game and positive coverage across all states is a very important thing for the AFL, and we see that we're contributing to that.
Well, you say positive stories, but how can you have any credibility really when you're reporting on yourself? The first negative story that comes along, how are you going to deal with that?
Well, we've dealt with a lot of negative stories so far. We've reported on Andrew Demetrio's salary cut. We've reported on the AFL's annual results, which were a loss. We've reported on Etihad Stadium's complaints that the AFL allowed people in the crowd to have footballs kicked at them by players. These are all things that normally the AFL would not be expected to report on, and we've done that.
Some people have likened it to the Gillard government setting up its own website and thinking people come to it for independent analysis. I wouldn't be so cynical, but surely if you want independent analysis, you're going to come to the Herald Sun.
And season 2012 is underway for the Bulldogs and the Eagles. And Nat Nui, trademark, down to Scott Selwood. Pumps it long. Kennedy, 2 grabs. How's that for a start?
Simon Pristall may act insouciant, but this is surely the worst moment for the Herald Sun to find itself facing another challenger to its dominance of Aussie rules coverage in Melbourne. Especially a rival which has direct authority over the source of all the best stories, the clubs themselves. Is it true that the AFL is telling the clubs that the good news stories, the human interest stories, should be going to AFL.com first and not to the newspapers?
Absolutely not, and I'm glad you've asked that question. So that's a myth that our competitors have put out there, and I understand why they do that, but we have never told the clubs that they're mandated to give us those stories.
They're trying to do that at the moment. There's no doubt about it. They're threatening penalties to clubs who don't cooperate with them. But people talk to the Herald Sun because they want the mass market. They want their stories, their players talking to the Herald Sun, reaching 2.4 million people every week in terms of print and online. That's why they come to the Herald Sun.
Well, threats or not, the real competition between the AFL and the Herald Sun won't be over footy gossip. It'll be over the so-called fantasy games, the AFL's Dream Team and the Herald Sun's Super Coach. Dream Team was launched back in 2003. Fans can make up their Dream Team from every player in the league as long as they fit under a salary cap. Week by week, the real players' performances are factored in to give each fantasy team a score. Then 3 years later, the Herald Sun introduced Super Coach. With more sophisticated scoring and better marketing, it soon overtook the Dream Team game. Already this season it has 330,000 signed-up players versus Dream Team's 250,000. More will sign up as the season progresses. Though Supercoach itself will still be free, the Herald Sun hopes that extra offerings behind the paywall will entice a good proportion of players to sign up for the digital pass.
For the first time ever, get live Supercoach scores, plus access to the same stats the coaches get in the box.
But News Limited was reportedly furious when Matt Pinkney, the man who brought Supercoach to the Herald Sun and has intimate knowledge of how it plans to integrate the game with the paywall, was poached by the AFL.
He's going to miss Supercoach. It must be hard working for an organisation that has the loser in the fantasy football space. Supercoach is obviously a dominant game with over 400,000 players. So we wish him well, as we do we do everybody who leaves the company.
They didn't want me to go, and I understand why they didn't want me to go. There's an enormous audience that plays both Dream Team and Supercoach, and that audience can be monetised to an extent, and both the AFL and the Herald Sun would be mad if they didn't attempt to monetise it. But there is room for both games. They've been going for several years now, and collectively there's about 800,000 people who play those games.
But do they want to be monetised? There's a lot of resistance online to the idea of paying for news about footy or anything else, and especially perhaps to the idea of paying News Limited.
I just have two questions. One, what are the Herald Sun smoking if they think people will pay more than $150 per year to read their stories online? Two, where can I get some?
This is a big gamble by the Murdochs. My bet is it will fail. You can't beat the people.
Some 20 years ago, pay TV was a gamble for Rupert Murdoch too, and it was sport that made it a global money spinner. News Corporation has chosen the Herald Sun as its tabloid paywall guinea pig because Melbourne is a football-mad city and the Herald Sun is the footy paper. But it's a characteristic of the digital age that the leviathans of the mainstream media can find agile new competitors springing up everywhere. It's not inconceivable that in 20 years' time the giant 20th century media companies will be as dead as the dinosaurs. But if the alternative is to be teams of journos hired to report on their own employers, from sport to business and government, I, for one, would rather keep the Herald Sun. Simon Pristol, of course, is upbeat.
It's an exciting space. Every media company in the world is going through this challenging time at the moment, but we're succeeding. We're in it for the long game, and Rupert Murdoch has always been in it for the long game, which is why he's been so successful.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? For fuller versions of those interviews and a little more, visit our website. Next week, we'll be back to our normal format. Until then, good night.